So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I just want to welcome you to the ERP Cloud Bootcamp review course. We're actually on day 18, and today we're looking at the bank reconciliation integration. So what I'm going to do is just take you through some of the core elements of bank reconciliation, and then we'll go into the application, and then we'll go through the reconciliation process as well. So just very quickly, bank recs are required between your cash transactions for your accounts payables and accounts receivable, and also for your payments from other modules like payroll, and also other miscellaneous cash transactions, including interest and also your interest payments and also your bank charges. So those are the core areas that bank will cover. So today we'll look at the bank statements and reconciliations to start with, and then we go into how to set this up. So I'm going to start off with an overview of how all this come together. Now, the core of what I want to look at this afternoon is the automatic reconciliation aspect of it, and the core areas in the setups that you need to look at when you're setting up your automatic reconciliation. And before you can perform your automatic bank statement reconciliation, you need to complete a number of steps. And one of the core steps that you need to look at is your reconciliation reference, which is made up of pass-in rules or pass rules. So these rules will enable you to convert codes which are on your bank statement to what the system will translate them into. So I'll take you through some examples of that as we go on. So you got your pass rule sets, you have your matching rule set, which is set up in your bank account. So you have that, which is set up in your bank account. You then have your transaction codes. So your transaction codes should match what you have in your bank transaction code. So when the bank sends the statements, they will include some transaction codes to represent what each line of transaction mean. So it could be a line of transaction, it could be a payment, it could be a receipt, it could be some adjustments, and so on. So that you have these codes. You've also got the transaction type mapping. So you need to map these codes to something, and that's where the mapping occurs. And then you have your transaction type itself. And there are different types. Some could be payables, transactions, some could be receivables, and so on. So once that's done, you then have to then link this up with your bank statements. And then this then goes into your so when you do your reconciliation, it will then look at your bank account based upon the rule set you specified, determine how it's going to match these values to each other. And then you have your rules. So your core rules that you need to look out for are your matching rules. You can have 1-to-1, which means that one line on your bank statement will equal one line on your your transactions. So if I make a payment, I would expect one line to show in the bank statement for that, for matching. And it could be many to one, many lines to one, or many lines to many, or many to one. So there are matching rules that you need to look at as well. And then you have tolerance. So you could use different variables to determine what the tolerance could be. So tolerance could be based upon date. It could also be based on the amount. And then you have your reconciliation rule set, which is a combination of your tolerance rules and your matching rules. And then you assign this to your bank account. So very quickly, I'm going to go into the application and then go into the bank account setup. So let me just switch off the video, and We go to setup and maintenance. And let's select financials, cash management. And I'm going to start with some of the core rules. So let's have a look at some of the rules, like like the matching rules to start with. Let's go into matching. Let me just search. So bank statement reconciliation matching rules. So with my matching rules, so there's quite a few matching rules. So one-to-one, let's have a look at some of this. Just going to select okay, let me just select one at random, just to show you what it looks like. So you're saying here that your transaction sources could be any of this. So when the bank statement comes in, and these are the bank accounts that these matching rules are being used in. So we're saying that when your transaction source is of type payables, receivables, this can be applied. And you're saying that you want to match one line of payables to one line in your bank statement. And then you're matching by amount and you're matching by date. Now, so you have to have these rules in here. And the question is where do you actually use this rule? So if I go to my manage bank accounts, and let me do a search based on my US US 1 legal entity. If I look at so for this bank, for example, we're going to create some as well for our bank, but let's have a look at this one, for example. So if I go to my controls, I'll be able to see for bank reconciliation, I have automatic reconciliation rule set. So in this automatic reconciliation rule set, it will have a combination of my matching rules and my tolerance rules. So if I go and look at RS03 for my automatic reconciliation rule set, so let me just go to my automatic reconciliation rule set. Bank statement automatic my reconciliation rule set. So if I look at the RS03, this is the one that is applied and is using this matching rule. So it will look at this matching rule to determine how the reconciliation rule would work. So it's basically looking at this. Now, there's another rule that you can use. You can specify tolerance. So if I look at my tolerance rules, I can specify different tolerance. So let's just look at this one as an example. So here I'm saying days before, days after. So I can look at a specific number of days before and after to apply those rules. I can decide that I want to use an amount. If the amount is above a certain amount, So that means that if it finds values which are close to that, then it will accept it as part of the matching. So that's basically what it would do as part of the matching rules. So, or maybe use a percentage. So if it's a certain percentage above or certain percentage below, it can use that as a way of matching. So you have that. So you have your tolerance rules, and you have that. Now, for our bank statement, I'll go to my bank accounts, and I'll go to my account name, Acme Bank of America. I haven't specified any, but I could say that I want to use this automatic reconciliation rule set in here. Manual. So again, I haven't specified any manual tolerance. I haven't specified any exchange rate type or any passing rule set. So again, I'm going to talk about some of this in a few minutes. So let me save and close this. So here I'm now going to apply those rules. Now, let's go back to, so in the auto reconciliation process, we will look at some of these transaction codes. I'm going to look at transaction codes now. We look at transaction codes. You look at how it's mapped to a transaction type and determine what those values will be to determine how this auto reconciliation would work. Now, if I just very quickly look at that just to show you how it works. So your bank statements, we look at all the different transactions coming in from all the different areas. And then it would link these codes with these transactions. And then it would run your auto reconciliation, and then it will look at these rules to determine how it would find the data and match them to your bank statement. So let me do that. Actually, there's something I should have done. Instead of just using RS03, but I'll leave it as is anyway, because there's something I wanted to show you in there from the tolerance, because the tolerance rules are not used in the reconciliation rule set that we have. So here, match amount and date. And it hasn't got, oh yeah, sorry. It's got tolerance rule of amount date. So this tolerance rule would say that days before, days after, it would look at an amount below, 5 below, 5 above. It's not using percentages to determine the tolerance. So that's a very wide tolerance to use for that. So we've got that. So let's look at transaction codes, the other element that you have. So I'm going to and do transaction. So bank statement transaction codes. So the bank statements will have different codes. Let me show you an example of a bank statement. Just go back. Let's see if I can find an example to show you. So there are different formats of the bank statements. You have the MT940, you have BAI2. There's a lot of other formats, but this is just an example. Just make this a bit bigger so you can see it. So what you have, this is just an example of the bank statement. Don't worry too much about the details, but you know that all you need to know is that there are certain codes in here 142.698, all these codes will be set up here. So 142, for example, so the bank will give us these codes and will say that 142 refers to an automated credit. And we will then go in here and enter 142 here, for example. And then you have 475, which are your 475 is paid checks. You can see those. So there's a lot of different codes. So those are the transaction codes that are used for these transactions. Now, what then happens is that these transaction codes are mapped to transaction types. These are the codes. Again, the bank will give you this information. You would see these are the banks that are currently using this. So let's go back to transaction types. This is the mapping. So we're saying that for the payables and receivables method mapping, we're saying that if it's disbursement, we've got all the mappings of the different types. So if I look at electronic funds, for example, so the method is electronic, transaction type. So for the type, you can specify your method, disbursement, whether it's disbursement or receipt. So again, you need to set this up. And then you've also got your transaction type itself. So transaction type. This is your, okay, this is for your AR transaction types. No, this is not the one I want. This is the one. Cash, okay, we look at this. Cash transaction type mapping, yeah. That's the one. So you've also got your, let's go back to cash management. So once these are mapped in, you run the auto reconciliation. It will use these rules to determine how to map based upon the transactions, transaction type, transaction codes, and then it will use that to reconcile to the bank statements. And then you can also run create accounting for your subledger as well. So that's the core process within the auto reconciliation. What I just want to do very quickly is just go through some of the setups, and then we can run an example. So for the auto reconciliation setup, the first thing to do is to set up the matching rules. And this determines how to match bank statement lines and the application transactions. So we've seen that. Next thing is to set up the tolerance. We've seen the tolerance as well. And then to set up the matching rule sets. So once you set up the matching rule set, you can then attach this to the bank. You assign it to the bank's account. And that's basically how it works. And then in the reconciliation processing, you submit the auto reconciliation process. Now, what I need to do is to let me just kick that process off. Now, but before that, I've created a mock transactions. When I say mock transactions, there are transactions that we expect. We made some payments, we made some receipts, and we've run some create accounting. So there are some transactions that we expect to see. Now, the core of what would generally happen is that you would generally have a bank statement. So let me create an opening bank statement. Actually, I think I might just use the one that I have before, but I'll just show you how to load the data and then how this would work. So let's look at some transactions. So if I go to my payables, actually I can go from, let me go from just want to check the payments that we've made, that we've actually run the create accounting. So let's check the payments. Manage payments. Payments made between, let's say, 1st of March. Actually, we made the payments earlier on this week. So let's just narrow it to this week and today. So we've got some payments here. We've got these two, which are negotiable. Let's just see whether we've run the create accounting. So these are Bank of America, New York. Payment process profile PPP. I'm not sure if this is for our transaction, but let me check the other one, because the account number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's check this one. Okay, no, sorry, this is the remit to account. So our account, that's the Bank of America, New York. This is where it's gone. Oh, okay. They're using the same bank account.
Supplier's account, right?
Yeah, that's supplier's account. Sorry, yeah, that's a payee. Yeah. So this is our own bank. Acme Bank of America, that's the one. So this is our account now, our account details. So let's see paid invoices. So we've got, okay, so some invoices have been paid. Okay, so let's have a look at the accounting. So we've got something in cash clearing, so that's fine. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I believe this will be shown when we actually run our bank statements import. So let's go to File, Import, Export. So what would generally happen is that the bank will send the file and it would go into an SFTP folder, and then it would go into the it would go into this cache. Just cash management. I think I need to create it as a zip file first. Let me just create a zip file. Right click, compress to okay. So let's find the file. Cash management. So that's the file. And this needs to go into fin cash management and its import. So what would happen is that the banks will send the file into some secured SFTP folder, and then you use something like OIC. It's a middleware to pull the file into this folder in UCM. And that's what would happen. And then we then go in and run the auto reconciliation program. So, but before that, I need to run the load import. So let me, one thing I didn't show you on the file, let me just go back to the file and show you a few things that need to change on that file. So first of all, I'm not sure if this would work because no, this is not the file I want to show you. The one I've just loaded is a slightly different file. I'll give you this sample file so that it'll make it easy for you to use them as examples. So the first thing to do is that on this file, as I mentioned, you've got all the different codes. So on the, this is the account number. That's the opening balance. Now, let me just show you an example of what the transactions look like. So these are just to make it a lot bigger. So these are the transactions that I've put through over the last few days. Opening balance is 0. And then we have a few transactions, interest, payments, and so on. So these are the examples. So the file structure is called the BAI2 file. And you have, this is the creation date. And then you have, which is this number here, 221206 as an example. You have statement date here. You have the account number here, line 3, and you have the balance here. And then you have all the transactions, 50,000, 32,550, and so on. So what I've done is I've taken this as my sample transactions, and I've just amended this file here. So that's basically what I've done to reflect the transactions that I've created. Now, I'm going to go into the details of this file in a minute, but let me just run my import program. Let me run my import program first. So the first thing we want to do is I want to submit the auto reconciliation process after we've loaded the file. And this will look at the matching rules and the tolerance rules to match the bank statement lines to system transaction lines. So that's the first thing that would happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let me just check something. Just a moment. Okay. Let's go and load the file. So what then happens is that you run this scheduled program. The file comes in, this scheduled process will run automatically, which is the load import. Normally, you would do this on a daily basis or based on the frequency of your bank statement. So load. Look. Load interface file for import is the first one. And the import process we want to load is the bank reconciliation. Then all this can be automated. Import statements. Just do a search. That's strange. Okay. Let me go through the other way. Cash management. Load and import bank statement. Now, I'm not sure we've got an opening balance. So let me create bank statement with an opening balance of 0. This is for a new bank account, Acme Bank of America. I'm just going to say first. And I'm just going to create, actually, okay, save and close. Statement ID 001. Okay. So now let's load and import bank statement. So it's a BAI2 format. So these are all the different formats that Oracle currently supports. They're all very, very well, the BAI2 and the MT940, these are all text files. These are the ones. MT940 is the most common version that you would see. You also see BAI2. They're very, very similar. I can show you an example of an MT940, but they're very, very similar. I find BAI2 easier to work with. So that's the one that we loaded. Intraday just means that you can load multiple bank statements in one day, and it can be incremental or cumulative. So that's just the difference. And let's submit. So that's the load in the bank statements. And then next we want to then submit our automatic reconciliation. So let's check to see what's happening with our monitor process for this. Let's finish loading the bank statement. I've got a warning. Not good. Why have I got a warning? Let's just check. Let's check to see if there's anything that is missed. Oh, okay. It's just telling me that the warning is that my closing balance is not equal to the amount of the opening balance. So that's fine. So I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually run the bank reconciliation, the auto reconciliation. So what we've done is that we've just loaded the files. Again, as I said, this will be automated. And this is so it's not reconciled. This is just the bank statements loaded in. So let me just show you. So every day when you go in, you would see your transactions loaded. So that's my opening balance, closing balance. And if I look at the transactions, these are the transactions in here. Amazingly, it hasn't seen any transactions. That's a little bit of a concern, because I thought that my transactions will come here, but let's have a look. So you then submit your auto reconciliation, your bank account. Again, this can be scheduled as well. This is my statement ID. Let me just read by statement ID. You can specify legal entity, bank, all these are various options that you can, but we'll let the system determine that from the dates. Then let's submit this. Let's refresh. Okay, so it's processing it using all those rules. So based on those rules, it's reconciled 2 of them. We can look at some of the exceptions. Let's look at the exceptions. So it's found all these amounts. Journal for 4. So it's trying to see whether it can match some of these off each other. This is, wow. Okay, 2015 is a very old transactions that is bringing up here. So I think some of these are some of the receivable transactions. But let's have a look at the reconciled one. Which ones did it reconcile? It's reconciled these ones that we expected that it would reconcile. Some of the payables transactions have been reconciled. Bank statements to payable. And these are the unreconciled ones. These are the unreconciled ones. So what you could do, let me just look at my receipt. So maybe my receipts. Okay, yeah, we didn't finish the receipt yesterday, but that receipt of 43,000. Yeah, so these two, these are checks. These are receipts. Oh, yeah. Some of these could be other things. For example, it could be maybe that this is interest, for example. This is some bank charge, as an example. So a check that we've paid that we can't recognize. So basically what we've done is we've just run through the process of how this would work. And we're able to reconcile at least two transactions. So we can view the automatic reconciliation results. We can, if necessary, perform manual reconciliation. There are no transactions here. Otherwise, if there are transactions, then we could actually manually match them. So we just need to create accounting and look at why this hasn't, maybe our receipt accounting setup is not quite right for our clearing account, who knows, but that's something that you may need to look at. And then after that, you view the exceptions, review some of the exceptions, we saw them, and then also reconcile the exceptions as well. And then once you've done that, you mark it as reviewed. So what we've done is we've looked at the core steps for creating bank statements and so on. Now, one thing I also want to mention before the questions is that there are additional information on what each of these elements represent. But again, it depends. The bank will give you these specs anyway, but the key thing to note is that there are specifications for each of these. There are rules for passing rules, okay, and so on. So actually, I didn't even put any passing rules in my, I think I did, yeah. But then passing rules, again, could be a little bit complex if you don't understand how it's mapped. So again, there are information on how this works in the videos. But feel free to play around with this if you're technical and you want to get into working with this kind of files. Again, it's another area that you can get into in terms of understanding what the bank statements files look like and how to process them. Yeah. So don't know if you've got any questions. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah. Good evening. Or good afternoon.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah.
Okay, I have quite a number of questions.
Sure. Go ahead.
Now, for receivables transaction, apart from credit accounting, is there any other thing to do before it flows to cash management?
For receivables transactions.
No, I mean receipts now.
Sorry, receipts.
Yes.
No. As long as your cash is set up as a clearing account, then it will flow through. So I think my cash account for receipting is probably not. Remember that this is not my original setup. We're using a ledger that already exists. Yeah. So, and I haven't gone back to check that, but that should flow through automatically. Yeah.
Okay. So the cash account should be a clearing account.
Yeah. Because that, it should be a clearing account. Yeah. It's
All right,
after you reconcile, that is when the clearing account will will be cleared, and then and then you will see
Go
your
to the appropriate account.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so to implement cash bank reconciliation,
Mhm.
is it possible to do it after go live when transaction has happened? Then later you now want to implement it.
Oh, you want so you're saying that you want to implement cash management after go live?
Yes, not the whole of cash management, the reconciliation itself.
Oh yeah. You can do that anytime. Yeah.
Anytime. Okay,
Yeah,
there's nothing
can.
like it whatsoever or something. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Anytime. We won't affect any transaction or anything.
No, it just means that before you implement it, you probably will be doing your reconciliations manually, or the first time you run it, you probably have a lot of transactions to reconcile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then okay. So the bank statement,
Mhm.
is there a way to convert it to the format, to that
BAIT.
yes.
The bank will create that format, and all Oracle has done is they've given us the mechanism to be able to convert that into something that we can process.
I didn't get that. Sorry.
Yeah. The bank will create that format. We don't need to create that format. So when you say you want to convert it, what do you want to convert it to?
Okay. So the bank will give you in that format?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the bank that will determine the format, that they use for this kind of payment. So, for the bank statements. In some cases, could be that it's an MT940. It could be your CAM format, XML format, and so on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So whatever format they give us is what we'll load.
Correct. Yeah.
Now you were talking about loading it through SMPT. I can't remember.
SFTP server. So what would happen is that the bank would send the file into a secured server.
Okay.
And then what would happen is that we would then pull the file from the middleware into the UCM area. So the file would go into an SFTP folder,
Okay.
and then we'll have an integration between the SFTP folder and our UCM folder.
UCM folder.
Yeah. So that's how it's done. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we'll zip it from the
SFTP. Yeah.
Okay, and now put it on our.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know how that plays out anyway.
No, those are the tech guys. They're people who do that. I mean, they work with middleware servers all day. They just take files from one place, put it into another place, and that's all they do. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're experts who do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. Bella.
Hi.
Hi.
Ask, what about external systems? We have the financial accounting of you register external systems. So can we use this for reconciliation to, like, I can see we have bank statement lines and systems transactions. External systems that went through accounting transformation and accounting.
Yeah.
We can also do the reconciliation here.
Right. Okay. Now, it's a very good question, because this is mainly for your subledgers. And if you bring it in external transactions, if they're going to go through bank, then it would have to be via journals. So the journals will come in, and the journals will hit the cash account or cash clearing, and then they would appear in your system transactions. Yeah. So that's how you would do it.
Okay, okay. So it's just for the transactions that go through cash clearing.
Correct, yeah,
Gotcha. Alright, thank
Yeah.
you.
no problem.
Sorry, one more question.
That's fine.
Okay, so the transaction code now,
Yes.
how do I get to extract that?
How
Is
do
it
you,
until I get the transaction code? It has to sync with what is coming from bank statement, right?
yeah, the bank will give you the transaction codes that they use. Every bank will have its own set of bank
Yeah,
transaction
I know,
codes. Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
Are
yeah.
they going to give me separately from what they are sending to the SFTP?
Correct. Yes, yes. Yeah, they will. Yeah, yeah. So at the point that you start the implementation, then you'll ask the bank for those codes. Yeah, and they'll give it to you. Yeah,
Okay, all right. Thank you.
yeah, that's fine. Okay. Any other questions before we look at what we have for today? There is a very small part that I normally cover at the end of this session, which is the area of debugging, but I'll run through that tomorrow very quickly.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go on.
What was it that we did yesterday? Sorry, when I remember, I'll ask.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So let's go back to the
Yeah, sorry. The loading of the bank account for suppliers.
yes.
Okay, so I did one for my organization today.
Yeah.
And after loading it, I just tested with 2. So now it's not automatically appearing. I have to now go and pick it again.
So when you say you have to go and pick it again.
Now, when you go to the supplier, you go to your payment as a payment field, then you go to bank accounts.
Oh, okay,
So
okay. I see what you mean.
I expect it to be there automatically, but it wasn't there. I had to now do add existing.
Right. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. Now, that's interesting. So that means that there is a reference that is missing that needs to link that to your site.
Oh, maybe it's the pay site.
Yes, yes. So you have to put a site in. Yeah. That's what's missing. Yeah.
I think I filled all the field for pay site and all that. I think I filled it.
Check the batch reference and check to see if it's the same or the ID.
The batch reference of
when you loaded it,
yes,
there's a reference that
yes, there's a
should
batch
link.
reference. Yes.
Yeah. So there's also a reference that is used for the site.
Yes.
Supplier site.
Yes.
So check that and see if there's anything missing there, because the only way it would link is if there's a site that is linked to it. Yeah. If not, there'll be no link. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe after everything was there, but I'll still check.
Yeah. But just in case. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But let me know so that I mean,
yeah.
I like this kind of things, because sometimes you do these things, maybe I mean, it's not in every project that I do data migration. I think the last time I was a core data migration person was about 5-6 years ago on cloud, and maybe there are certain things that have changed, but the principle is still the same. But it would be good to know so that I can just go back and check them again. Yeah.
All right. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the assignment for today is basically just going through what we've done, transaction codes, and I've got step-by-step on how to do them. So just go through them, get yourself familiar with it, and and then just, yeah, then this is something that for end users, they would need to know how to run this reconciliation. But in most cases, it's automated. They just go in there and then they will see that it's auto reconciled. But the key is in the setups, the matching rules, the rule set, tolerance. And once the codes are there and the accounting is set up, it should just auto reconcile. Okay. So if there's no more questions, then we can close the call, and then we'll see you tomorrow at tomorrow is going to be back to normal time, 5 o'clock GMT +1. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.